It's 11:47 at night when Bryce turns onto our street and grabs my wrist. Not hard, not rough. The grip of someone communicating urgency rather than force. His hand closes around my wrist just as he downshifts and lets the car slow, and I look at him and his face is doing something I've only seen a few times in 20 years of marriage. Controlled in a way that means the thing being controlled is not small. "Stay in the car," he says. His voice is quiet, careful, the voice you use in hospitals and courtrooms and other places where volume is a form of information. "Trust me, Bryce, stay in the car." I look through the windshield, blue lights, the specific intermittent strobe of a police vehicle parked at the far end of our street. Not racing, not emergency, parked, attending to something. Bryce pulls over half a block short of our house and cuts the engine. I look past the police cruiser. There's a figure by the car, hands on the hood, the specific posture of someone who has been asked to place their hands on the hood. Head down, shoulders up, in the involuntary way of someone who is frightened and doesn't know what to do with their body. I know that posture. I know those shoulders. I know the way that person stands when he's scared. The particular hunch that hasn't changed since he was 9 years old and got caught breaking a neighbor's window with a baseball and stood in our kitchen with exactly that shape. "Owen," I say. I reach for the door handle. Bryce's grip tightens on my wrist. An officer moves toward our car. She shines a flashlight through the passenger window. She looks at me. "Ma'am," she says, "are you Colleen Hart?" "My name is Colleen Hart. I'm 47 years old. I have been a mother for 19 years. And in those 19 years, I have learned to read Owen the way you learn to read someone who is yours. The small signals. The difference between the face he makes when he's embarrassed and the face he makes when he's afraid and the face he makes when he's in real trouble. The language of his expressions, which I've been translating since before he could speak. The face he's making now, illuminated by police lights at the end of my street at midnight, is the third kind. Real trouble, but it's not the face of someone who did something wrong. It's the face of someone who has been placed in a situation they don't understand and are terrified by. The eyes too wide, the jaw held tight to stop it from moving, the expression of a person drowning in something they didn't jump into. I know my son's tells. Bryce is out of the car now. He's walked down the block and he's speaking to one of the officers in a low voice. His hands are in his pockets. His posture is relaxed in the deliberate way of someone who has rehearsed being relaxed. He keeps saying something I can catch in fragments from where I've finally gotten out of the car despite his instructions. It's handled. Pause. I've handled it. Pause. It's handled. The officer nearest to Owen is young, methodical, writing something in a notebook. She looks up at me. "Do you recognize this license plate?" she says. She holds up her notebook, a plate number written in careful block letters. I look at it. It's our car. Our make, our model, the registration belonging to our address, but it's not our plates. Owen looks at me across the hood of a stranger's car with police lights turning everything blue and white and strange. His eyes are the eyes of a person asking for something they don't know how to ask for. I move toward him. An officer steps slightly in my direction, not blocking, just present. "Owen," I say, "tell me what's happening." Bryce materializes at my shoulder. "Don't make it worse," he says. The low voice, the calm as a threat voice. "I'm asking my son what's happening," I say. Owen's jaw moves. He's trying to organize something, words that are difficult to find in the right order. "Dad said it was..." He stops, swallows. "He said it was paperwork, that it was fine. Paperwork. In our driveway at midnight, with police and a car wearing wrong plates and Owen's hands on the hood." I look at Bryce. He doesn't meet my eyes. He addresses the officer. He uses the phrase "handled" twice more in 4 sentences. Then headlights appear at the end of the block. A car I recognize. Deirdre's silver sedan. Bryce's mother. She gets out wearing a robe over pajamas, which means she dressed to come here in a hurry from home, which means she knew to come here, which means someone called her before calling me. She walks past me without acknowledging me. She takes Bryce's arm. Then she turns to the officer with the expression of a woman who has managed situations for 50 years and finds this one manageable. We don't discuss family business with police, she says. Her voice carries the authority of someone who has never once believed she could be refused. The officer's name is Park. Officer Park. She's in her mid-30s, with the particular professional calm of someone who has seen families in crisis many times and has developed the capacity to be steady inside other people's disorder. She explains the situation in the measured language of law enforcement. There was a hit and run earlier this evening. A vehicle matching the description of a certain make and model. The license plate on the vehicle found near the scene matches a registration tied to our home address. Owen's name was on the registration. He is being asked to come to the station for questioning. Not under arrest, not charged. Requested for questioning because his name is attached to the document. Owen looks at me. The drowning look. I take a step toward him. I'm coming with him, I say. Officer Park nods. That's fine. Bryce is beside me. His voice drops to the register just above a whisper. The register that means the words are for me and only me. If you panic, he says, you'll ruin him. I look at my husband. 20 years. The man I chose, the father of my son. If you panic, you'll ruin him. The sentence is designed to convert my instinct to protect Owen into a liability, to make my presence a threat to my son rather than a resource for him, to keep me small and compliant by leveraging the thing I love most. I don't respond. I get in the police car with my son. The station lobby has plastic chairs and fluorescent lighting and the specific smell of industrial cleaning products and waiting. Deirdre sits beside me. She shouldn't be here, in terms of any need. Owen has me, and I am his mother, and I'm competent and present, and there is no gap for her to fill. But she's here because presence is a form of control, and Deirdre understands this with the fluency of someone who has practiced it for decades. She puts her hand on my head, not my shoulder. My head. Like I'm a child. A smooth, slow stroke that says you don't know what you're doing and I'll manage this for you. Sweetheart, she says, you've always been emotional. This is why Bryce handles things. I sit very still under her hand. She turns to Bryce and says, in the voice she uses when she thinks I'm not processing properly, keep her out of it. Keep her out of it. I'm Owen's mother. We're in a police station at midnight, and the instruction is to keep me out of it. Officer Park appears in the lobby doorway. She walks toward me specifically, not toward Bryce, not toward Deirdre. She says, with the professional neutrality of someone choosing their words carefully inside a situation she's reading accurately, do you have access to your husband's insurance app, the one linked to your vehicle policy? I look at her. Yes, I say. You might want to check the listed drivers, she says. She says it the way people say things when they want you to find something without them being the one to hand it to you. I open the insurance app in the lobby bathroom while Deirdre is talking at Bryce in the hallway. Our policy. The joint policy we've had since Owen was born. The one I set up, the one I organized, the one I've maintained because I'm the person in our household who organizes and maintains things. I scroll to the listed drivers section. Owen's name is there, listed as a driver on our policy. The addition date is 2 weeks ago. I did not add him. I know I did not add him because adding Owen to our insurance has been a conversation we've been having for 6 months. A financial conversation about what the premium increase would look like and whether he needed to be on the policy now or whether we could wait until he was more settled. We had not finished that conversation. We had not made a decision. I had not logged in and added Owen to the policy. I look at the date again, 2 weeks ago. I scroll lower. There is a notification log in the app. Account activity. At the bottom of the recent activity, a small entry. Email change confirmation sent. I tap it. The email address the confirmation was sent to. It's not mine. I look at the address. A string of letters and numbers that appears to be designed to look almost like my email but isn't. A substitute address I've never seen before. Someone changed the contact email on our insurance policy, and they sent the confirmation to an address that isn't mine so I wouldn't see it. I find Bryce in the hallway outside the lobby. Deirdre is no longer beside him. I wait until I can see she's not in earshot. I hold my phone up. I show him the insurance policy, the addition date, the email change. He looks at it. He doesn't deny it. He reframes it, which is what he does when he can't deny something. He turns it so the shape looks different. I did what I had to, he says. It was the practical solution. Mom said it was safer to have everything in order. You added Owen to a policy without telling me, I say, and changed the contact email so I wouldn't see the notification. I was handling it, he says. You would have wanted to discuss it for 3 weeks, and by then what? He stops. He looks at the floor briefly, then back at me with the expression he uses when he's about to say something he's been holding. Owen needs to take responsibility, he says. For things. It builds character. I look at my husband. Character. Our son is in a police interview room at midnight, and Bryce is explaining this as character building. Owen is being questioned for a hit and run he didn't commit, I say. He needs to learn. He's 19 years old, I say, and someone put his name on a registration for a vehicle that was involved in an accident. That's not character building, that's something else. I walk back to the plastic chairs, and I sit down, and I open the notes app on my phone. I start writing. Owen calls me at 2 a.m. from inside the interview. He's been allowed a break. I can hear in his voice that he's been crying and has stopped and is trying to hold the stopped. Mom? His voice is doing the thing it does. The thing I've heard since he was 9 and broke the window. Grandma told me to sign something at her house. She said it was for my college forms, financial aid stuff. I keep my voice level. When was this? Like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4? He breathes. She had a folder. She said it was just forms for when I start at the community college, and she needed my signature for financial aid information because Dad's name isn't on the account. He stops. She said it was routine. Okay, I say. What else do you remember about the forms? There were a lot of pages. His voice drops. Mom, I'm not sure, but I think I might have one of the pages I didn't read all the way because she was talking to me while I was signing, and He stops. Owen. The pause is long enough to tell me something significant is at the end of it. I think I signed ownership, he says, of something. I don't know what. The page said there was a word at the top. Transfer. Title transfer. Mom, I didn't know what it was. I get home at 3:15 in the morning. Owen has been released. Not cleared. Released pending further investigation. He comes home with me in my car while Bryce rides with Deirdre in hers. I walk into my house and I go directly to the kitchen. The familiar geography of my own home at 3 a.m. feels slightly wrong. The way things feel wrong when you've been away long enough for the familiar to become strange. The folder where I keep our household documents is in the cabinet above the refrigerator. Birth certificates, passports, the deed to the house, insurance cards, Owen's school records. I reach for it. It's in the wrong place in the cabinet. Not missing. Repositioned. Moved from the back where I always keep it to the front, as if someone accessed it and replaced it without thinking about the order. I carry the folder to the kitchen table. I'm looking through it when I become aware that I'm not alone. Deirdre is at the kitchen table. She's already here. She has a cup of tea. The specific occupied ease of a person in a room they've decided belongs to them. She watches me go through the folder with the expression of a woman who has already reviewed its contents and is watching me discover what she already knows. We'll get Owen an attorney, she says. Her voice is warm in the way it is when warmth is meant to close a conversation rather than open one. A good one. Everything will be fine. She holds my gaze. If you stop asking questions, she says, I don't sleep. At 4 a.m, I sit at the kitchen table with my notebook and I begin writing everything I know. Dates. Every date I can anchor. Owen signing at Deirdre's house 3 to 4 weeks ago. The insurance policy email change 2 weeks ago. Owen added to the policy 2 weeks ago. Tonight stop. Exact phrases. It's handled. You'll ruin him. Owen needs to take responsibility. It builds character. If you stop asking questions. Every sentence I can remember in the exact words. Witnesses. Bryce, Deirdre, Officer Park, the officers at the scene, Owen. I photograph the insurance app screen, the listed driver edition, the email change log. I document what I noticed about my household folder, the repositioning, which shelf, what the normal position is, and what position I found it in tonight. At 5:30, I call the hospital where I work and leave a message that I need a personal day. Then I drive to the county records office when it opens at 8, and I ask about title transfer records associated with our home address. There's an entry. A vehicle title transfer filed 3 weeks ago. My name as previous owner, my signature on the form. I have not sold any vehicle in 3 years. I ask for a copy of the filing. The clerk prints it. I look at the signature. It's meant to look like mine. It's practiced. I go home and I write, document submitted with forged signature. Title transfer. Investigate notarization. Then Deirdre's voice from the previous night. You won't find them. She expected me to look. She expected me not to find anything. She underestimated what a woman who doesn't sleep and takes notes can find in a morning. Officer Park calls me at 10. She can't tell me everything about an active investigation, she says. There are limits on what she shares with someone adjacent to the case. She uses that word, adjacent, with the care of someone choosing it precisely. But she can tell me one thing. As a matter of public record, available to anyone who asks. The vehicle connected to the hit and run was sold recently. The seller listed a home address as the previous owner's address. She reads me the address, our address, my house. We did not sell a vehicle recently. I have the title to both of our cars in the folder above the refrigerator. I know this because I went through that folder at 4 in the morning and inventoried everything in it. The title to our second car, the older one, the one Bryce drives when Owen borrows the primary vehicle, is there, in the folder. Meaning the car wasn't sold. Meaning someone filed a title transfer claiming to sell a vehicle and listing our address as the origin of the sale. My stomach flips with the particular nausea of understanding something I've been circling. Owen didn't sign ownership of something he didn't know about. He signed a title transfer document at Deirdre's kitchen table while she talked to him, and he didn't read every line. A car connected to a hit and run was sold, on paper with Owen's signature, from our address, transferred to someone else or to a shell arrangement, and then used in an accident. Owen's name on the registration made him the previous owner of record. I write everything down. Then I get in my car and drive to the DMV. The clerk at the DMV has the expression of someone who processes paperwork all day and has developed an ability to deliver complicated information without personal investment in the emotional response it generates. He confirms the title transfer. He confirms that a signature matching the registered owner's name was used to complete the filing. It's notarized, he says. I ask to see the notary stamp. He shows me the filing, the stamp at the bottom of the signature page, the notary's name and registration number printed in the embossed seal. I write down the name. I don't recognize it immediately, but I know how to find information, and I pull out my phone and search the name while the clerk waits with professional patience. The notary is registered, licensed, based in our county. I look at the associated address, the primary business location. I look at it again. A church office, a specific church in our area. A church I have attended twice for community events. A church where Deirdre volunteers every Tuesday and Thursday. A church where Deirdre has served on the administrative committee for 4 years. A church where Deirdre, in the framed photo on the committee's website, stands smiling in the 3rd row wearing the expression of a woman who is exactly where she intends to be. I write it down. Then I photograph the DMV filing. I drive to an attorney's office. Bryce calls me while I'm in my car outside the attorney's office. I answer because not answering will cause a different kind of problem, and I'm not ready for that problem yet. You're making Owen's life worse, he says. The reasonable voice. The voice that has always been most effective on me because it sounds like concern and hits like a tool. I'm trying to understand what happened, I say. You're looking for someone to blame, he says. This is what you do when you're stressed. You dig. You look for problems. There are problems, I say. There's a situation being handled, he says. You don't need to understand every piece of it. Owen's name is on a registration for a vehicle involved in a hit and run, I say. Which is why it needs to be handled carefully. Without you, he stops. Without you adding emotion. Emotion. My concern for my son, my documentation of what I've found, my presence at a DMV and an attorney's office, these things reframed as emotional instability. He's quiet for a moment. Then, if you keep pushing, he says, Mom will tell them you're unstable. There it is. The threat wrapped in a warning, wrapped in something that sounds at the right angle like advice. Them, I say. Who is them? He doesn't answer. I hang up and go into the attorney's office. The school counselor calls me the next afternoon. Her name is Mrs. Ando, and she's been Owen's school counselor since 10th grade. She calls me on my cell, not through the school's automated system, which means she wanted to reach me personally. I wanted to let you know before you found out another way, she says. We received paperwork yesterday about Owen's enrollment and emergency contact information. Okay, I say. It indicates a guardianship change, she says. For Owen's records. My heart rate does something. I sit down. He's 19, I say. Yes, which is why I'm calling rather than just processing it, she says. The form came through a standard update channel, but the content is unusual. Typically for a 19-year-old student, we wouldn't have a guardianship designation at all. Who is the listed guardian? I ask. A pause. A Deirdre Hart, she says. I write the name down even though I know it. The act of writing it makes it something I can act on rather than something that's happening to me. Mrs. Ando, I say, please do not process that form. I'm contacting an attorney today. Can you put a hold on it? That's why I called, she says. Yes. I hang up and I call the attorney's office I visited yesterday. The attorney's name is Raina Sloan. I spoke to her assistant and made an appointment. But I don't wait for the appointment. I call and ask to speak to her directly. Raina Sloan is on the phone in 7 minutes. She has the quality I needed from her, a voice that processes what I'm saying and responds to the content rather than to the urgency. She listens to the summary I've been practicing in my head since the school called. She asks 4 clarifying questions. She takes notes. When I finish, she says, I'm filing 2 things today. A motion to halt any guardianship change pending review, and a formal request for all notarized documents associated with Owen's name in the last 60 days. Today? I say. Before the day ends, she says. Because people who move this quickly on guardianship forms don't stop moving. We need to be faster than they're planning for. She speaks in the calm verbs she uses for everything. Freeze. Preserve. Document. Each verb a specific action with a specific outcome. I ask her what she thinks is happening. She's quiet for a moment. Not the quiet of someone who doesn't know. The quiet of someone deciding how directly to say what they know. They're not just scapegoating Owen, she says. Owen's name on these documents gives them leverage over you. If you fight back, Owen's exposure gets worse. If you stay quiet, the leverage holds. They're trying to control you through him. I sit with that. My son, being used as the mechanism by which his grandmother and his father keep me compliant. Okay, I say. What do I do? Nothing that looks like panic, she says. Everything that looks like documentation. Officer Park calls me 4 days after the midnight stop. She sounds different. Not unprofessional, but there's something in her voice that has shifted from the carefully neutral tone of an active investigation to something slightly more direct. I wanted to let you know where we are, she says. Owen's location at the time of the hit and run has been confirmed. His cell phone pinged a tower near his friend's address. The friend has confirmed Owen was there. We have a timestamp. I close my eyes briefly. He wasn't driving, I say. His phone places him elsewhere during the relevant window, she says. Yes. Relief is a physical thing. It hits the way she described, like air after drowning. My chest opens. Owen is not a suspect. Owen did not drive a car into another vehicle and leave. Owen did not do anything except sign something he didn't read at his grandmother's kitchen table because she told him it was college forms. But, Officer Park says, I hear the but before it comes. Someone used his identity to register the vehicle, she says. His name on the title transfer, his address, the registration documents filed under his information. Using a minor or young adult's name to register a vehicle without their knowledge is identity fraud. That's still a crime. The investigation continues, just not with Owen as a subject. She pauses. The person who built the paper trail with his name is the subject now. The certified letter arrives on a Thursday. I almost don't open it because the return address is a business name I don't recognize. But certified mail requires a signature, and I've been paying attention to everything that comes to my door since the night with the police lights. I open it. A demand letter from a body shop. A repair bill. The bill is addressed to Owen Hart, co-signed by Bryce Hart, for repairs to a vehicle described by a specific make and model. The same make and model as the car in the hit and run. The bill is for repairs to the damaged car. Someone took a car damaged in a hit and run to a body shop and put Owen's name as the vehicle owner and Bryce's name as the co-signing adult. I look at the repair bill for a long moment. Then I look at the attachment. The body shop has attached a photograph. A standard damage documentation photo, the kind shops take before any repair work begins. The photo shows the car, the specific damage on the front end, and on the passenger seat, visible in the corner of the image, slightly out of focus but recognizable to someone who has sat across from it at 100 Sunday dinners and doctors' waiting rooms and school pickups. A red tote bag. Distinctive red canvas with the logo of a church charity drive. The tote that Deirdre has used since the drive 3 years ago. The tote she carries everywhere. I photograph the letter. I photograph the attachment. I call Raina. Raina subpoenas the security footage from the notary location. The church office has a security camera on the exterior that covers the parking lot and the office entrance. Raina goes through the proper process, the subpoena through the court, the formal request, the official channel that produces footage that can be used. The footage comes back in 10 days. She calls me to her office, she plays it on her laptop, I watch. The footage is time-stamped. The date is the date on the notarized documents. The time corresponds to the notarization time listed in the official record. A car pulls into the parking lot of the church office. 2 people get out. Deirdre. Unmistakable. I've watched her move for 20 years. The particular way she carries herself, the posture she's always had. And Bryce. They go into the church office together. Bryce is carrying a folder. The timestamp runs, 14 minutes pass on the footage. They come back out. Bryce still has the folder. Deirdre is smiling. I watch the footage end. I look at Raina. I was at work, I say. That afternoon, I have time cards. I know, she says. That's the other piece. The notarized documents claim you were present when your signature was obtained. The footage shows your husband and mother-in-law at the notary's location. Your employment records show you at work. You can't be in 2 places. She closes the laptop. The person who signed those documents was not you, she says. Deirdre calls a family meeting on a Saturday afternoon. She doesn't ask. She announces. A text to Bryce, which Bryce relays to me, framed as everyone coming together to address the situation. The address is Deirdre's house. She has arranged it in the way she arranges things. Chairs positioned, tea prepared, enough relatives present to create the weight of an audience. I go. Raina told me to go. She said it with the specific emphasis of someone who knows exactly why attending is the right move. Deirdre performs the meeting. She sits at the center of it, and she performs concern. The careful, sustained concern of a woman who has been playing this role for so long it no longer requires preparation. She speaks about my emotional state. She speaks about her worry for Owen. She speaks about the difficulty of watching someone you love struggle. She uses the phrase confused about what happened twice. She says protecting Owen 3 times in 15 minutes. She addresses the relatives in the room as her audience, and they respond with the murmured sympathy of people who are hearing one side of something and don't know that. Raina is not in the room, but she told me what to do. I sit quietly. I let Deirdre perform. I say very little. I stay calm in the deliberate, documented way of someone who is being watched and knows it. Before I leave, I step outside to call Raina. She performed well, I say. Good. Raina says. I can hear the specific satisfaction in her voice of someone who got what they needed. Everything she said in that room in front of witnesses is now something we can request sworn statements about. Every claim she made about your mental state, every characterization of your behavior, that's now on record. She just gave us depositions. The motive is in the paperwork. Raina finds it through the discovery process, through the formal requests that produce documents people send and sign and file and assume will never be connected to each other. Deirdre has been applying to a retirement community, a specific one, the kind that requires financial documentation, proof of assets, evidence of stability. The kind of community that wants to know you have resources and relationships before they offer you a space. The application requires what the community calls a financial contact, a family member who is formally connected to the applicant's financial arrangements, someone whose name on the application says this person has resources and support. Bryce's name is on the application. Has financial contact. The application also requires documentation of the applicant's asset management capabilities. Evidence that the applicant can manage or oversee financial arrangements. The car sale, the fraudulent title transfer filed with Owen's name and my forged signature, appears in the documentation as an asset transaction. Evidence of property management. Evidence of financial activity. The guardianship angle. The attempt to list Deirdre as Owen's guardian creates a formal connection on paper between Deirdre and a dependent, which the application specifically asks about as part of family stability documentation. Every piece of the fraud had a purpose, not random greed, not opportunistic theft. Deirdre needed to demonstrate financial management capability for her retirement community application, and she built a paper structure out of our lives to demonstrate it. Raina sends me the findings and adds, "The court needs to see this." The guardianship petition is filed on a Tuesday. Deirdre petitions for temporary guardianship of Owen, citing my emotional volatility as creating an unstable environment. She argues that Owen needs a stable adult presence while the vehicle investigation is ongoing. Owen is 19 years old. Bryce signs a supporting statement. I sit in Raina's office and read the petition. Then I set it down. "They're doing exactly what you said they would," I say. "Yes," Raina says. "The court date is set for the following week." Raina requests an expedited timeline given Owen's age and the supporting documentation we have. In court, Deirdre's attorney presents the guardianship case with the practiced warmth of someone who has been given very specific language to use. Colleen is overwhelmed. Owen needs stability. The family is trying to protect him. Bryce sits in the gallery. He doesn't look at me. Raina stands. She says, "We have notarization discrepancies and video evidence." She says it in the flat, professional tone of someone who has held a very good hand for a week and is now placing it on the table. The judge looks at the petition in his hands and then at Raina. "Proceed," he says. Officer Park testifies. She's been subpoenaed as a fact witness. She testifies about the night of the midnight stop, the blue lights, the position of the vehicle, Owen at the hood. She describes Bryce's behavior specifically. The early arrival at the scene, the attempt to keep me in the car, the phrase handled repeated multiple times. And then she describes Owen's statement, given at the station during his questioning. The minor, the young adult, stated that his grandmother had presented documents to him at her residence and asked him to sign them. He stated she described the documents as college financial aid forms. He stated he signed them without reading them fully because she was speaking to him at the time. The judge writes, then Officer Park testifies about Owen's cleared status, his phone location, his presence at his friend's house during the hit-and-run window, the confirmation that he was not driving, and she testifies about the ongoing investigation, the identity fraud element, the use of Owen's name and information to register a vehicle he didn't know about. The judge has been writing steadily. He removes his reading glasses. He looks at Deirdre. Did you present documents to a minor, to a young adult, for signature at your residence? He says. Deirdre has the expression of a woman who has been in rooms like this before and has always been able to manage them with performance. She opens her mouth. Raina presents the documentation in sequence. My work time cards. Clock in at 8:14, clock out at 5:47, on the date the notarized signature was obtained. My employer's records, certified and submitted. I was at work, I was not at the notary's office, I was not at a church office, I was 40 minutes away earning a paycheck. The security footage from the church office. Time-stamped. Deirdre and Bryce entering with a folder. The time matching the notarization log. Neither of them is me. The email change logs from the insurance policy. The substitute email address. The account the confirmation was sent to so I wouldn't see it. The school's guardian change form. Deirdre's handwriting in the margin notes. Annotations she made that she apparently forgot were handwriting and not typing. Marks that can be compared to samples. And the retirement community application. Filed under Deirdre's name. With Bryce as financial contact. With asset documentation, including the fraudulent title transfer with the guardianship designation as part of the stability documentation. Raina presents it without drama, just the sequence. Just what happened in what order, and what each document shows. She lets the evidence do what evidence does when it's organized and accurate. The judge has been reading each exhibit as it's submitted. He's been reading carefully, the reading of someone who is not being shown a theory but a documented sequence of events that tells a story he can follow. Bryce is in the gallery. I watch his face change when the retirement community application appears. I watch the moment he understands that the full picture has been assembled and submitted to a judge. The judge looks at Bryce over the top of his reading glasses. "Mr. Hart," he says, "you may be personally exposed to civil and criminal liability." The judge's ruling comes the same afternoon. The guardianship petition is denied, not continued, not sent for further review. Denied. The judge makes specific notations. The documents submitted in support of the petition contain evidence of fraudulent notarization. The applicant's testimony regarding the documentary process is inconsistent with video evidence and employment records. The motive structure revealed through the retirement community application documentation raises significant questions about the purpose of the petition beyond stated concerns for the young adult's welfare. The court orders corrected records filed with Owen's school, clearing the guardian designation change. The court orders the fraudulent title transfer flagged and referred for investigation by the county fraud unit. The notary whose stamp was used is referred to the state licensing board. Deirdre's access to the church office is subject to a formal review notice from the church board, which is copied on the court's referral. Bryce is ordered into a supervised contact arrangement regarding Owen, pending resolution of the civil and criminal review. He will not have unsupervised access to Owen's legal or financial documents. Deirdre walks out of the courtroom with her attorney, quickly, without the dignified composure she arrived with. After the ruling, in the hallway, Bryce is near the exit. He walks toward me. Raina steps forward. She puts herself precisely between us. "If you have something to say," she tells him, "put it in writing." Owen comes home on a Saturday that feels like the first Saturday after a long winter. His name has been cleared, not just from the investigation. Formally cleared, documented, the false registration corrected in the county records, the identity fraud acknowledged in the official record. His school file has been restored. His name, his identity, the paper version of who he is, all of it back in his own hands. He sits at the kitchen table, and I make him the same breakfast I've been making him since he was 9 years old. Eggs scrambled soft, toast with the specific amount of butter he likes, orange juice in the green glass he's always preferred. He eats and he doesn't say much for a while. Then he says, "Mom, how did you know what to do?" I think about the 4 o'clock morning and the notebook and the dates in careful sequence. I think about the DMV clerk and the notary stamp and the insurance app and Officer Park's careful words. "I wrote everything down," I say, "and I found someone who knew what to do with what I'd written." He nods. "What happens now?" he says. Bryce is in a supervised arrangement pending review. He's not in the house. That happened with the help of Raina's court filing and a separate family law proceeding that I've begun with careful attention and documented evidence. Deirdre's retirement community application is under a different kind of review than she intended. The asset documentation she built with fraudulent filings is now the center of an investigation rather than an application. Owen and I have separate finances now, his own account in his own name with his own information. I have updated every contact email on every account we hold. I have new passwords and a passphrase known only to me. I have a written parenting plan that Raina helped me file. Clear boundaries about who has access to Owen's documents, who can be present when Owen signs anything, who can represent themselves as having authority over Owen's affairs. Everything in writing, because writing is what protects you, not the spoken reassurances, not the "trust me" whispered at midnight with the blue lights at the end of the street, not the "it's handled" repeated until you stop asking what it is. The paperwork, the dates, the notary log and the security footage and the employment records and the cell phone ping that put Owen at his friend's house. The writing is what saved us. I look at my son across the kitchen table. "Now," I say, "you never sign anything without reading it." He almost smiles. "Yeah," he says. "I learned that. If you've ever been told to stay quiet for the family, to stay in the car and trust someone, to let someone else handle things because you're too emotional. Subscribe, because silence is how they pick their next scapegoat. And the next story might show you exactly how to speak up before they finish building the frame.